Hello again from my front porch. Today we're going to have an educational episode. The teacher in me feels the need to come out. And it's not really even so much teaching per se, it's really more advice, I suppose. But as many of you know, I have a degree in journalism, majored in journalism and minored in political science and U.S. history, and got licensed to teach journalism and U.S. government, U.S. history at the junior, senior high school level, did all that stuff. And, actually worked for a couple of different newspapers in Iowa. One of them got Iowa Newspaper Association Award for work that I did. I think that was back in '92, so a little while ago. But anyway, I'm proud of that legacy, and I'm not necessarily using those skills now. Well, the teaching skills I'm obviously still using, but in the private sector. But still. I mentioned that just because I want it to be clear that what I'm about to share is not just me, pontificating off the cuff, but this is stuff that I was actually taught in school, in getting my journalism degree, that we were taught when it came to reporting polling data, and that's our focus today, that you needed to do more than just look at the numbers. You needed to also communicate what actually is going on. That meant pulling it back a bit and examining and analyzing and extrapolating what the story really is there. And I'm a little concerned that I don't think that's being done anymore. I see more. Every article I see just is like, here's a number, so that means blah blah blah, and it's like I don't know quite about that so much. In fact, the big advice, here you go. Here's the golden nugget. My advice to you, whenever you see, and you're going to keep seeing these articles because we're ramping up in the political season now. People, the politicians starting to get ready, presidential ones especially, for the primary and caucus season coming up after the first of the year. And so, they're going to start really pushing that. And then all through next November, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be messy. Assuming President Trump is still the Republican nominee, I don't see any reason why he's not going to be at this point, but you never know. That could change. But whatever, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be messy. So you're going to see lots of polls, lots of data. How do you know if what you're looking at is legit? How do you know if you're getting the right message from it, or are you just getting what the reporter wants you to think, or the commentator, or whoever is presenting the polling data? And so here's my advice to you. One of the things that I do at every poll that I see, that I'm interested in looking at, political polls, I immediately try to find where the raw data is, because I'm interested in what is the partisan breakdown of the respondents. See, and here, I'll give you a case in point. Just this morning, I had a brief exchange with a good friend of mine on Facebook that we were talking about a poll that was done by Fox News that said 51% of the respondents to the poll now supported impeachment and removal of office for President Trump, which is like, whoa, wow, Fox News reporting this kind of thing. I understand why that's a big deal. But then I did my thing where I look at the breakdown, and I see that in this particular poll, the breakdown partisan-wise was 48% of respondents were Democrat, 40% were Republican, and 12% were other, independent or otherwise. Now, some would argue, well, that's the breakdown of how voting lines up across the country. Might be, but that's not the point. The point is, in this poll, the big deal is being made that 51% of respondents, and there's like 1,003 respondents, 51% of respondents now say they support this. Well, yeah, but there's a margin of error on the poll of 3%, and 48% of the respondents are Democrats, and pretty good odds that most of them said, yes, I support impeaching and removing Donald Trump from office. So you start with 48%, you have a 3% margin of error, so basically there's your 51%. So there's nothing newsworthy about that at all. All you're proving is that Democrats support impeachment, which I could have told you without a poll. The real story in that particular poll isn't the 48% or the 40%, what they think. The real story is that 12%. Because that's the group that in this whole impeachment thing, and I don't want to get off on that, but in this whole impeachment thing, part of the reason that the House Democrats keep dragging their feet in moving forward aggressively with it is because they're worried that it might bite them come 2020 in the election. So they need to make sure they have the majority of the voting public on their side when proceeding with impeachment. That's where all these polls come in. Well, Democrats, they support it. Republicans, they don't support it. Shock. Those independents, those swing voters in the middle, those are the ones that have to be watched, that have to be convinced that this is the right course of action. According to that poll, yes, 51% of respondents say this, but that 12%, they're not convinced. They haven't been swayed yet. See, to me, for what I was trained when studying for my journalism degree, that would be the story. That 12% not yet being convinced, that would be the story. Not the 51% that say, oh yeah, we should do this. And I know that seems counterintuitive. Well, but 51%, that's a majority. Why would you not report that? Because again, it's not news. 48% are Democrats, and very likely, and you look at the numbers that supports this, very likely are strongly in favor of this. That would have been known before the poll was even taken. Now, if you would have taken the poll and that number of supporting impeachment would have been like down at 30 or 35%, knowing that 48% of the respondents are Democrats, that would be news, because that would mean that not even all the Democrats polled supported it. So again, it involves the going in and looking at what does the data actually say based on what are the details of it. And so I just want to give you can do whatever you want to with the polls. Read them, trust them, don't trust them. I don't personally trust hardly any of them anymore, especially after the release of those Podesta emails. And we can debate how they were released, were they illegal, but nobody has denied that they were true. And that's the interesting thing about it, because in those Podesta emails, there actually was a lot about Podesta and the Democratic National Committee working directly with named major media outlets to educate them, to coach them on how to do polls that would give the desired results. And I mean, it's there. It's out. You go out and look these emails, and so that also gives me pause to trust these polls, because I'm just really highly cynical and skeptical, but I kind of doubt that routine is stopped. So I'm also a little bit skeptical about now you say, how could you do that? Well, that's another little secret you need to know. They will tell you in a poll, this is how many were surveyed, and this is when it was conducted, and landline and so on. But what you never see in any of these polls, and I wish they would say, is what parts of the country are represented. And the reason I say that is because, the 12% independents. If I'm doing a poll and I want the poll to come out more to the liberal side, then I'm going to call more liberal states, more liberal parts of the country, urban areas, and try to connect with independents there, because odds are those independents are going to lean to the left. Likewise, if I want to do a poll that I want to be able to manipulate and make it look more conservative, I'm going to try to identify more conservative strongholds. And I'm going to try to find the independents there who may be disenfranchised Republicans. They just don't like what the Republican Party is doing, but they still consider themselves conservative. And so their responses are probably going to align more